And all of a sudden it just went whoosh in flames, and I had to did I just see that? Is that what I'm looking at? And I did. I went, that tree just got on fire.
I can't remember, it was like 1 in the morning, 1:30 in the morning. I got a call from our duty sergeant that we had a fire in the city that had started likely from the wind that knocked a tree onto a transformer, but it had ignited a large area and was immediately threatening homes.
Took a walk down to where the newer development is, just down the block, and we started seeing helicopters coming down in that river there and picking up loads of water, and you could see the smoke on the other hill over in Sumner. I saw a tree go up in flames, which is along a road I take all the time down below, and I just was really surprised, and then I saw the helicopter dump the water on it.
Immediately became apparent that this was a pretty big deal for us. The fire was growing, the winds were still moving pretty good, and the fire was rapidly approaching a lot of houses.
It was getting pretty weird then, but we still had no idea till later in the afternoon how bad it was to affect us.
Evacuations were going to be in play, which I've never been involved in evacuation of that many people. I worked for the city of Puyallup before, and we had some flooding issues, and so we've had evacuations there, but I've never had anything on this scale. So we kind of didn't know what to expect. We were helping with evacuations. The other thing is a lot of the roads were littered with debris. So it impeded the first responders getting to the area.
Police and fire came to the neighborhood and suggested us to, better get out.
I was coming back and I saw these people kind of rushing towards that area, and they all looked concerned. I turned around and I instantly saw this humongous cloud of smoke. I mean, it was dark and scary, and it looked like it was just down on that block, and I went, oh crap, and I ran in here and I said, Paul, it started again.
It was kind of figuring it out as we go. Usually it's a joint operation that we do with the fire department. On a structure fire, we pretty much know we got to control traffic, got to keep people away, got to keep people from driving over the hose, make sure fire has a good ingress and egress. But on this one, I mean, we didn't know what to expect. We've seen a lot of house structure fires where we assist fire department, but never been involved in a wildland fire to this magnitude. Almost every summer, somebody throws a cigarette butt out and the side of the hill burns on 410. And the fire folks are there pretty quickly and they get it extinguished, but I've never seen or been involved in anything of this magnitude.
Very smoky. Yeah, you couldn't even see the valley. It was all basically, smoke, windy and smoky, and it could have been, we thought maybe it was from the fires from California or from eastern Washington, or we didn't realize that a lot of it was probably from here.
No.
The sky was orange, the smoke was thick. You could actually hear the crackling of the fire. It was, gave you the scope and size of it was beyond anything you could even imagine.
At about 7 p.m., I was talking to our emergency management personnel and saying, at what point do we start kind of mobilizing every contractor water truck that exists in Pierce County, get them filled up and get them out here trying to do something to help, because our fire assets were tapped.
And with the winds blowing the way they were, and you just didn't know what was going to happen. It was a very uncertain time, and just kind of very uneasy for somebody that's never been involved, especially with fire, to see what it was going to do or what was going to happen. Could have very easily, if it would have jumped Myers Road, it's got nothing but fuel to the lake. There's houses and trees, and it was very dry. Obviously that time of year it was a red flag warning, and obviously we found out firsthand what exactly that means. We've never experienced something like that, and all the conditions were just ripe for it.
It was
scary, yeah.
I stood in the middle of the living room and said, what do you take? I mean, besides Paul had gotten the important papers, I just grabbed pictures.
Yeah.
And it's like, really, this is stuff. But that was really horrible to think that everything could be gone.
One of our officers was told to evacuate his house, and that we were told in the EOC that those houses where he lives probably are not going to make it through the night. And fortunately they did survive, but it was touch and go for quite a while.
See where the fire worked down almost in between some of the homes. and it was just literally that day. Assistant Chief Stabenfeld during, while commanding was, I need more engines. I need more, and every time he thought I'm going to lose that house, another engine showed up, and he could park it at that house.
It was getting pretty close, it seemed. If the winds would have picked up, who knows what would have happened.
Right, and then when we did come back and see the damage so close, it was obvious it was coming our way.
Yeah.
It was only like a mile or so away.
I think planning for the next one, unfortunately, is what we're going to have to do. Is we've already talked to the fire department about better communications to make sure that we have that in place from the get-go, and to have alternatives, because we had no power, no cell phone. The HVAC here in the building where our EOC wasn't working, so it was and it was in the 90s those days, so you can imagine it was sweltering, plus the smoke. Couldn't really get any airflow because you couldn't have the smoke come in. So just making sure that our officers are prepared, having some kind of a go bag with meals and things like that in case they're going to be deployed for a while. Understanding what we need to do to support fire in these situations, and a lot of it was making sure that they were safe, that they didn't have to worry about traffic, so shutting down roads, make sure people didn't drive over their water lines.
This is relatively new in our area. We've seen smaller ones. We've had, like a 5 or 10 acre fire on somebody's, farm, that, where they would lose, a few barns and things like that. But we were always able to contain it, like at the property line. This is the first one we've seen of this size where there was no stopping it for a couple of days. It was going to go where it wanted to go because being wind driven.
It was bizarre. Like, I don't have experience with fire. We live in the wet side.
Yeah, I never thought this would happen in
No.
Western Washington ever.
No.
I mean, this is
I was
crazy.
worried about my sister and her husband in Cle Elum, and they're ended up being the safe ones.
Yeah.
If this is going to be the new reality, we need to have adequate resources. If we're going to, instead of rebuilding our communities every year, we need to prepare to make sure that we're saving those communities, and having the adequate resources, I think, would go a long way towards that. People need to understand that this is the new reality. It used to be an east side thing, but obviously it's not anymore, and how much it can impact a community. And we were so lucky again that if the fire would have shifted a little bit, the devastation could have been a lot worse.